6 o'clock, and that's our appointed time, so I will call the meeting to order. The Board of Zoning, Planning, and Appeals, and Mr. Simmons, roll call. Sure.
Williams?
Present.
Kretschmer?
Here.
O'Laughlin?
Here.
Trandell? Castetter? Graziano?
Here. Okay, ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, for those of you who may not be familiar with our procedures, we will first take care of some business of the board from previous days, and then when we call the case that we're here for, Mr. Simmons will give a brief overview of the whole, what's gone into this so far. We will then open the floor to the public for your comments, and hopefully we won't be hearing the same thing 10 different times, so we'll see how that goes. And we will then close the public portion, have discussion among the board ourselves, and then hopefully go to a vote. So that being the case, you board members have all received copies of the minutes of the meeting of April 9th. Are there any comments, corrections? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, we will then proceed to call Village Case 26 ZPA 02002 for the property at 422 Krenz Avenue, known as the Cary Station PUD. And with that, we'll have Mr. Simmons kind of give us an overview of what we're here for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As mentioned, the request this evening is for the proposed Cary Station PUD. It's a redevelopment of the former Maplewood School property. It's a approvals that the petitioner is seeking this evening, which are the actionable items that will be considered by the board this evening, are first a map amendment to rezone the property from the existing R2 single-family residential district zoning classification the property has, to a PO, which is Park and Open Space District, and the B1 Central Business District zoning districts. Additionally, the second approval that's requested is approval of a planned development for the proposed project, which will consist of 280 residential units with various zoning departures from the underlying zoning regulations for the district. Those 6 departures that are requested, I'll provide more information later in the presentation this evening, but they're asking for a separation departure for the single-family products within the development, a side-to-side separation from structures to reduce from the 15 feet to various distances between those structures, a building setback variance or departure along Prairie Street, a departure for the proposed building height within the development, off-street parking requirements, landscape transition yard along the western property line, and then also a departure from the monument sign requirements for the zoning district and the development. And I'll provide more information on each of those later in my presentation. For the purpose of the discussion this evening, so planned development is a section of the Unified Development Ordinance that allows for flexibility in design for developments. It's within Chapter 7 of the UDO. It is required that any project that is over 2 acres in size or is zoned B1 receive approval as a PUD. In both of those situations actually apply to this project. But it's a way that it allows more flexibility in the design of a project versus following the rigidity of a specific zoning regulation, so that a project can be designed to fit the nature of the area where it's being developed, to take into account the adjacent uses or different land patterns in the area, so that a developer can be creative, a little more creative in the design of a project from that standpoint. So that's where this proposal this evening is seeking the approvals through the plan development ordinance. Brief history on the property, as I'm sure everybody's aware, the property has been in the village limits since the original corporation of the community back in 1893. The gymnasium that's on the property was first constructed on the site back in 1929 when the school was previously located on Main Street and School Street. The gymnasium was constructed for the students to utilize in that facility. 1945, classrooms were added to the property, which then created the Maplewood School. And then with the growing community during the following time period in 1975, the bus storage lot, which is currently on the property, was constructed at that time. Since 1975 until the school closed in 2010, there were various additions to both the school and the bus facility in response to growing population needs in the community. Under the comprehensive plan, the property has primarily been designated for two uses in its history. In the most recent, previous plan, the Centennial Plan in 1992, the plan designated the property for public, semi-public use, which is related to the existing school that was on the property. Following the school's closure, and then the most recent comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2015, the future land use designation for the property was changed to multifamily residential. And throughout the comprehensive plan, there's various guidance for the potential redevelopment of the site, specifically focusing on potential multifamily residential uses on the property. Following the adoption of the 2015 plan, when the school district owned the property, there were various proposals or contracts for the sale of the property that were presented to the village, but never received a formal petition. So this board never saw a zoning petition related to the site. Those three proposals previously fell through from a contract standpoint and did not proceed through the zoning process. Following those zoning petitions, the village and school district were able to enter into an agreement for the transfer of the ownership of the property in August 24. That purchase transferred the property from the school district to the village for ownership of the property, and then the village provided some assistance for the relocation of the transportation center, which is currently on the property, to another site in the community. In summer of last year, those zoning entitlements were approved for the transportation center at the site over here on 3 Oaks Road, and the school district has proceeded with the start of that construction project and is anticipated to complete that relocation by this summer. In connection with the acquisition, the village went forward with distributing an RFP for the proposals and qualifications from development community for the site, which was distributed in September of '24. In January of last year, the village board entered into a preliminary development agreement with JM Developers, who's tonight's petitioner, for pursuance of a redevelopment of the property. Following the entering into the preliminary development agreement, the developer held a couple of public open houses related to the project last summer. With that information, it was included in the packet that the board received this evening. And then the village was able to move forward with a redevelopment agreement with the development team, which spelled out the various terms or basics of the project that the village would support and various financial incentives related to the proposed project. The project within the agreement is contingent upon receiving zoning entitlement approvals, which is the reason for the petition being presented to the board this evening and going through the zoning process for the proposed project. Also associated with this development, just for information for the board, the village did not require the developer to provide a traffic study as part of their petition, mainly due to the village currently pursuing the construction of a new roadway on the north end of the property that would connect to Cary-Algonquin Road and Industrial Drive and High Road and Main Street on either end. That project is currently in phase 2 of a 3-phase process for constructing a new roadway. Phase 1, which included a traffic study, which was part of the packet you received for this evening, did assume a development, mid-rise development of 300 units on the property. So the roadway was designed to accommodate the potential traffic impacts from whatever development would occur on the site, assuming a 300-unit development. The proposal before you this evening is a less dense project, obviously, than what was studied, coming in at 280 units. So the roadway project, the Phase 1 report has been submitted and approved by IDOT as of last month, and is going through right now the Phase 2 work, which is to design the construction drawings for the roadway. Once those are completed, the project will be let for construction, with construction anticipated to start sometime next year. So this evening, the petitioner will provide an overview of their project. This slide shows the proposed site plan. It'll be a 280-unit development with a mixture of single-family products, single-family detached homes, townhomes, and duplex units, and then 3 multifamily apartment buildings as well. Following the petitioner's presentation, I'll provide some more additional information, more presentation on my end as far as the actual details and the actual items that the board is to be considering this evening. But for now, I'll turn it over to the developer for their presentation, and then happy to answer your questions after the presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking your time to be here today. It's been a long process, as you see, as Mr. Simmons laid out. We are in about 1.5 years into this too, so we have spent a lot of time to study the best solution for this project, and we believe what we have presenting to you tonight meets those objectives. So firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Brian Kronwitter. I'm principal with Corrigan Clark, and working with the JM team to represent our full team today on this presentation. We'll advance. Let's see. There, did you do that? I do that. All right, fantastic. Sorry, technology is always fun. So about JM Development, Michael Polakaitis will be speaking after me. Is one of the partners in there. John Corrigan, who actually started Corrigan Clark. He's out in Spain, couldn't be here today, so I'm representing his portion of the project and this presentation. JM Developers have been around for 10 years or so, and have been really, it's a strategic partnership between Corrigan Clark, which is the architecture, engineering, and construction arm of Corrigan Clark, has worked with Michael multiple times, and they came together to create JM Developers. So we are a full-service, design-oriented developer as well as builder. We have also strategically partnered with Bush Construction and Development, which I'll speak to them in a second, to help really expand our team on this project. Corrigan Clark is, as I mentioned, they're a full-service integrated delivery architecture, engineering, and construction business. We're located around the Midwest in an office over in Madrid, which happens to be where John is as we speak. So we got about 150 employees all in, and really can offer a full breadth of services, including estimating services, which really has been instrumental as we are developing this project to make sure we have good cost, and have been really working with Bush Construction to verify those costs as we move forward with the implementation of this project. JT Real Estate, which is Michael's original development group, and they have now come together as JM. So they're very experienced in this business sector and have been growing, and especially now focused on JM development. Bush Construction and Development, which Brent Crittenberg is representing. He's not going to speak tonight because I'm taking all that in. So. But he's more than welcome to answer any questions. They are a strategic partner for us. They do development, ground up, housing is primarily their emphasis, as well as adaptive reuse. But they also have a construction division. So we can use their bonding capacity and strength of construction as we go forward with actually executing this project. So it's a great partner to have to really spread the risk out to make sure we're able to deliver this project on time and within budget. Additionally, Pinnacle Engineering, which are two gentlemen at the end of the table, which are nearby in West Dundee, are doing all the site development and engineering, civil engineering, landscaping, et cetera. So that is an important cog in this project due to the fact that there's a lot of essentials in the site development of this project that we believe give this development a little more pizzazz from a site development standpoint. So the team, it's more than just us folks here. There's lots even behind the scenes that will be helping us execute this project. So we're really excited. Hopefully everything turns out to our favor tonight and we can move forward with the next stage in the execution of the project. Just a brief overview, see some imagery of some of the projects we've done and using that experience to make sure what we're delivering here for Cary meets that same quality and architectural style, or not style, but architectural quality and creativity. So with that, I'm going to flip it over to Michael, who's going to talk about highest and best use.
Thank you. So now that you've heard a little bit about the team, I'd like to discuss why we believe this plan represents the highest and best use of the former Maplewood school site, and whether this is consistent with the village's adopted vision for what downtown Cary should look like. So this site is just not about another parcel in the village. It is, by the village's own words, one of the largest and most strategically important redevelopment opportunity in downtown Cary. Both the Downtown Cary Strategic Plan adopted June 15, 2021, and the State of the Downtown Report from October 23, 2020 identify this property as a priority development, one that is central to the long-term success of the downtown. These plans don't simply suggest redevelopment. They specifically conclude that the continued low intensity or single-family use of this approximately 15-acre site would underutilize land that is uniquely positioned to support downtown revitalization, metro access, housing diversification, and economic vitality. So when we talk about the highest and best use, this is not a subjective interpretation. It's grounded in the village's own adopted policy framework. So we ask, why is this project the highest and best use? Well, this proposal implements that vision directly. The strategic plan explicitly states that the multifamily residential development compatible with surrounding neighborhood is recommended here, and that the redevelopment with multifamily residential and open space is likely the best alternative. The proposed development does precisely that. We are introducing multifamily residential as the core use, supported by a mix of housing types, integrating meaningful open space and transition scale and density to protect the surrounding neighborhoods. We believe that this is not a reinterpretation of the plan. We believe it is implementing the plan as written. So are we advancing downtown Cary's core goals? We believe that answer is yes. And there's 3 goals that were listed in that plan. One is strengthening the downtown Cary market position. The plan is clear. Downtown Cary's long-term success depends on increasing residential density near downtown and the metro station, adding households to support local businesses, and expanding household diversity. This project delivers that. It brings new households within walking and biking distance of downtown, strengthens the customer base for local businesses, and fulfills the plan's directive to maximize land use efficiency in and near the downtown core. The strategic plan further identifies Maplewood as a catalytic redevelopment opportunity that should be prioritized because of its ability to drive downtown reinvestment. This project fulfills that role. The physical design, character, and compatibility. The second goal that is stated is to enhance downtown's physical appearance and urban design character while respecting surrounding neighborhoods. The plan is very specific of how that is achieved through transition zones, step-down density, and height near single-family areas, open space buffers, and strong pedestrian connectivity. We believe that our proposal incorporates these principles directly. Higher density is located internally toward the center of the site. Lower density residential edges the transition towards existing neighborhoods. Open space and park areas provide buffering and community benefit, and the street and pedestrian network is extended to improve circulation and connectivity. These are not general design concepts, they're directly taken from the principles of the plan. The third goal was connectivity, mobility, and transit support. This third goal focuses on those items. The strategic plan identifies this site as essential to strengthening access to the metro station and supporting transit-oriented development within the downtown. We believe that this plan does precisely that. We also believe that any alternative are inferior to this plan. The adopted plans, per the downtown plan, the adopted plans are clear about what this plan should not become. They caution against continued vacancy, low-density development, or single-use outcomes that fail to activate the property. We believe that we address all these issues in the fact that we have the multifamily, we have single-family homes, and we have townhomes. We believe that it's important to understand that not only did we use the downtown plans to help identify and develop this plan, but more importantly, we believe that our community engagement process also helped to deliver our plan. Can you go to the next? As was mentioned earlier, in June of 2025, not only did we have 2 open houses, but we also met with local business owners. Participation was strong at each stage, with dozens of residents attending, providing written feedback and verbal feedback. What we heard was consistent and substantive. Residents raised concerns about building height, density, traffic, privacy, open space, and stormwater management. These concerns were not dismissed. They were documented, studied, and incorporated into our plan. A consistent recognition that leaving this site vacant is not the preferred outcome and that thoughtful redevelopment is necessary led us to this final plan. So how did we respond to the neighborhood concerns? Well, we reduced elevation, we reduced heights of the buildings, we reduced overall density, we replaced townhomes along Krenz and replaced them with lower profile single-family homes. We took 3-story townhomes and made them 2-story. Access to Prairie Street was removed to address traffic and cut-through concerns. And open spaces were expanded and recentered as a community asset. From a planning standpoint, we believe this is exactly how our highest and best use was determined, not by removing density entirely, but by calibrating it appropriately. By placing intensity with where infrastructure and transit can support it, and reducing it where it meets existing neighborhoods, and enhancing open space where it provides the greatest community benefit. So if we take a step back, right, and we look at our plan, we had an original plan. We brought that forward. We listened and we studied not just the village's downtown economic plan, but we also listened to the residents and what we'll mention further as far as market studies, and determined that this proposal represents the highest and best use for this plot of land that's near the downtown core.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael, for that description. So what we have in front of you is just an overview of the site plan as it currently exists. And just to walk you through some of the comments Michael made about the transition from earlier renderings and earlier concepts to really address the really the scale of the project and how it abuts the residential to really account for some of the comments received, really good comments from the folks that we met with in these various meetings. You see on the plan is north being straight up. The transition from single-family homes, which are the furthest south, along Krenz, to really allow that to feel far more residential. It's really much like a neighborhood in this case here. The front entrances are off Krenz. The access to those single-family homes are through that street right there that only allows you to get to the single-family homes, much like the rest of the neighborhood. To the left of that is the park. It's about 0.8 of an acre. We've already met with the Park District about programming that and potentially what the improvements might be for that. What you see there is just a diagram right now, and to be helped, the Park District will help us do the design for that park. To the west are the duplexes, and again, those are set back from the residential with backyards and a landscaping buffer to allow that to really help to disguise any of that development during construction, especially too. And to the north of the single-family homes are the townhomes, right? So those are multiple, 3 buildings that have the various for rent components of that. And then those are all 2-story buildings that allow that transition in scale and height from the residential, primarily 2-story residential, to get you into the middle of the more dense and higher development portion. In order to really help to scale it up, the first building, which is a T-shaped building there, is actually a 1 level of parking and 3 levels of apartments, which gives you a grand height of 4 total stories. So that is another transitional element we utilized in this plan to get you from 2 stories up to 4 and have some loop road around the development to get you access into the apartments. And then moving towards the new high road extension to get you the taller buildings, and we even took some strokes to get the scale to look slightly lower at the end. So we dropped the 2 ends of the buildings to a lower level, 4th story there or those 2 buildings. And then the larger building, which again is the 5-story buildings. Both these are 5-story buildings, 4 stories of apartments, 1 story of parking below them. These buildings are closer to the urban fabric of the downtown, abutting the metro tracks and the new high road. As you can see, access to the site are designated as really 2 access points to the apartment complex, which includes the duplex townhomes, and then the 1 access point is strictly limited to the single family to the south. There are, as Brian Simmons mentioned, 280 total units, and the makeup covering these about 15 acres is noted here on the right, with about 236 units in the main apartment complex, which is in that main center area of the site, and then there's duplexes and townhomes of about a similar number, 15 and 16. Then single-family homes along Krenz are 13 units. Other amenities within the complex are a dog park, which is about 0.16 acres, which we'll show that in a second here. A pool, an outdoor amenity, about 1.7 acres, and then the playground, like I mentioned before, is just under an acre. So there's lots of bike paths, which hopefully you can see that here in this graphic. As you can see the development in a little more detail related to the types of units in the apartment buildings designated in the second paragraph. There's the largest unit is building 1, which is the 4-story T-shaped unit from the number of units. Actually, the second largest. The largest is building 3, which is the trapezoidal shaped unit there with 93 units. Looking at the duplexes, it's off to the west. There are 2 units per building, and they're about 4,224 for the total unit. There'll be 2 parking spaces that are covered, 2 that are available in the driveways. The townhomes are about 6,100 per building, which also include a garage. There are 5 units per building, as you can see by the driveways. And then 2 parking spaces internal to the building, and then 2 on the driveway. So the single-family homes lot area, looking at that from on Krenz, is about 4,000 square feet of lot. Parking, there are 135 covered spaces within the apartment complex. There's surface lot parking of about 215, bringing your total parking to about 350 spaces in the apartment complex. Looking at the architecture, we tried to be true to the goals of the village and having some variety in materials and rhythm to create a high quality product that looks attractive from the exterior, has timeless materials, which use of masonry is fairly used to an effect that works pretty well to get some rhythm in the exterior facade. There are some overhangs that are slightly exaggerated to, again, tie into some of the other architecture features. We were trying to create some sort of a prairie gesture to get some of that horizontality mixed with some verticality. So it's an architecture that has some timelessness to it. The other materials are a cementitious siding in the lighter gray, which is often called hardy siding, and there are other manufacturers that make it, but that is a long-lasting cementitious product that has a very popular usage in commercial properties, and especially apartments, and even modern homes are using the hardy board and a higher tier quality product. There are some board and batten style stuff in the kind of projecting bay windows that have a little slightly different surface texture to it. And then the entire lower level up to that first datum point, which to the first balcony, is all brick and stone. You can see the gray is actually a cast stone product. So you have timelessness of the materials being utilized. You have a brick facade that is used in a rhythm that we believe is appropriate for this downtown area and give you a quality appearance. And then there's plenty of glazing for the windows that are working in the apartments, as well as this corner feature here, which is one of the important components of the architecture. As you're driving down the high road extension, or you can see this from the train tracks and other perspectives across the town, is something to call attention to this development. It's not functional space necessarily on the upper floor, but it will be a taller volume ceiling in that apartment. So that's the Primo apartment. If anybody's interested, call Mike. He's renting, right? So that's the materials, but again, we talked earlier about the transition of scale. Now looking at the single family homes, they're in a not quite zero lot line, but a much more narrow side lot requirement, which we were again trying to get the density to work well with this full development, and to do that we had to suggest a tighter lot line between the single family residences, and believe again this is somewhat of a monotonous look because we just didn't want to create multiple colors, but the reality is these are for sale. So the people who do buy these will have some options on colors of the hardy siding that have, they're all in an earth tone, so they'll be earth tone, that will limit the number of palette opportunities that these single-family homes would have. But you'll see some brick accents in the front facade, just at the porch roof line, if you will. But again, the architecture will have some upgrades that allow some customization to some degree, but not a whole lot of customization, mostly color. So single-family homes to the right, the duplexes those are townhomes, right? Townhomes, sorry. Again, there are some opportunities for variety in the townhomes between color palette, again, in the natural tones for that. Just wanted to keep it somewhat homogeneous for this presentation. And then the bottom left is the 4-story lower scale version apartment complex. So interiors and amenities, this is some images of what could be the playground and the park. Again, that's going to be driven by the park district, depending on what their wishes are for that. There'll be other features along in the other areas of the site, the pool deck, et cetera, and then of course the interior finishes. Our intent is to really, have some finishes that are befitting of what we believe is going to be a quality development, yet still affordable. These are just some images of some of our other projects that are inspirational for the group here, but we will, refine those interiors as we move forward with the project. So, Michael, market demand, why are these going to be fantastic?
So to help us get to what we know is true, we've completed multiple studies. As Brian had mentioned, we did not complete, but we've reviewed the traffic study. There were changes based on the community comments regarding the closing off of part of the development to Krenz. But also, we had market study completed, we had price impact analysis completed, we had financial impact analysis completed, all which is part of the part of the submittal. And so what we've done is we've put together all the relevant evidence to come to a product that we believe will be successful. And so what we're seeing, and this is based on our market knowledge, but also on third-party market analysis, what we're seeing is not just in what we believe Cary, but also broader throughout the region, is a clear and a documented shift in housing demand. There's a growing demand for walkable, transit-oriented, transit-accessible housing that allows residents to live near downtown amenities, employment centers, and the metro. At the same time, Cary, like many suburban communities, remains heavily weighted toward single-family housing, with limited options for residents who want to downsize, reduce commute dependence, or live in a more walkable environment. Our development, proposed development, fills this structural gap. It's designed for three primary groups. It's designed for young professionals seeking transit access and convenience. It's targeted to downsizing households who want to lower maintenance living near downtown. And also residents who want access to Cary's amenities. It's great downtown, for instance, without relying on daily vehicle trips. So this isn't just speculative, it's real and it's measurable. And so we talk about competitive landscape and how we came to our decisions through the market analysis. There are several local competing rental communities. Schoolhouse Flats, Harbor Point, Springs at Three Oaks, The Enclave, Riverwalk on Main, Water's Edge, and even the proposed the Fiduciary Seasons that's coming to Cary. We looked at all of those, and what do we believe through our market study analysis and what we know of the market? What makes us different? First, it's the transit access. It's downtown. It's near the downtown core. It's part of your strategic downtown plan. So Cary Station is the only project in this entire competitive set that is directly walkable to the metro station and to its fabulous downtown. Schoolhouse Flats and Harbor Point, for instance, are located in Cary, but they're not transit-oriented in their design. Larger projects like Springs at Three Oaks or Fiduciary's proposed developments are fundamentally highway-oriented, design around arterial road access and daily car dependency. Cary Station is the only project that is genuinely a TOD, transit-oriented development in this market. Secondly, urban versus auto-oriented design. Competing projects rely heavily on surface parking, spreading out site and daily trips. By contrast, we believe that our residents are going to be using the metro. Third, the scaling and buffering, which I believe, even though it's third, it's last but not least. Many of the competing projects, particularly garden-style developments like Springs at Three Oaks or Fiduciary's proposal, place residential buildings in large exposed layouts with limited transitional design. Cary Station is intentionally structured differently. This is not to speak negatively of any developments. All the developments across the entire region are fantastic. Ours is just different and selfishly better proposed. Higher density components are located internally towards the rail corridor, while lower density housing is used as a transition buffer. That distinction is critical, we believe, from not just a planning standpoint, but a marketing standpoint. Fourth, our amenities. Everyone has amenities, right? But we do believe that we will compete with the best. Competing, being that we have the covered parking, being that we have those wonderful products that Brian had previously mentioned. So we take all of our market analysis and we say, how are we going to absorb this many units? Well, that brings us to that question of performance. And because the relevant issue isn't just whether there's a demand, but whether this project can successfully be absorbed in the market, we've put together what we believe is a fantastic plan. So existing rental communities, right, are already largely stabilized with occupancy levels in the low 90%. That tells us something that we believe is very important, that even without this transit-oriented design or downtown adjacency, Cary already supports strong rental demand. So for a new Class A rental product in this broader submarket, we believe that our third-party market studies are correct in analyzing that our absorption rate will be 12 to 18 months. How do we work our hardest to guarantee that to ourselves? Well, we start leasing up right away. We don't ever stop leasing up. We start from day one. While construction is starting, Brent and I are starting the marketing, right? And we have pre-leases, we have pre-sales, and we work tirelessly to make sure that we are being stewards of Cary and stewards of our development in the marketing of it, right? And so what about the for sale component? Well, we believe that it's important to understand that the for sale component of this development functions differently than other suburban townhome or for sale communities. And the difference being is that our product is near downtown and it's near a multifamily residential component. So we've intentionally placed it along the edges to serve as that buffer, but also give our consumers an option. Why do we believe that, based on our market studies and market knowledge, that we believe this project will be successful? Well, it's because of what we just stated. The transit-oriented downtown connected site, filling a gap that's in Cary's housing supply, the favorability of both the scale and the access to the rail. All those items taken together will lead to success. So we've talked about why this is the highest and best use. We've talked about what the product is. We've talked about who the market is. I'd like to spend a few minutes speaking to the economics of the deal. And so we've had a third-party consultant, Paluski Financial, prepare a third-party market analysis, and they used a product called InPlan that's universally recognized to not only determine the economics, but to review the market studies and the demand, and to place best practices into motion to be able to determine what's going to be the financial impact of this development to Cary. Well, the first number, and we believe that even though these are conservative, they're being social stewards. We'll give you what we believe are the conservative numbers. Conservatively, we believe it'll bring in over $11 million just in revenue to the village in the next 10 years. And that's through impact fees, that's through sales taxes, so on and so forth. But what it also, what this also states through the InPlan process is that there'll be $101 million in private construction investment, which is a direct infusion of capital into the local and regional economy. During construction, the project is expected to support 420 construction jobs minimum, and once complete, approximately 89 permanent jobs annually. That's just not that. Now, keep in mind, that's just not at the development. That's also landscapers, maintenance, workers that are required to keep the buildings going, but also the residents are going to be spending money in the community. That will create jobs. And in what we have determined through this or through this financial impact study is that we believe that the project will introduce at least 531 new residents at a minimum. Those residents represent, based on our demographic of resident, approximately 26 million in annual household income brought to Cary, and generally approximately 2 million minimum conservative in going to the ongoing annual local spending. What is that? That's the discretionary income. That's people going out and spending money at the local grocer. That's money going to spend at restaurants. That's money going to clothing stores. And those numbers are conservative because as downtown Cary grows, there'll become more businesses that come, and that number of 2.1 million will only get bigger. So this is the type of activation that the Village of Cary Downtown Strategic Plan envisioned: a stronger, more active downtown core supported by nearby residents who contribute to its long-term vitality. So the question was also risen, what's going to happen to property values? We had Housing Trends, who also completed our third-party market study, also complete a pricing impact analysis. And so the issue was evaluated through this independent third-party analysis, using a repeat sales methodology and comparable developments across Metro-served communities to look at the housing sale analytics. The analysis looks specifically at how well-designed mixed residential developments perform in relation to surrounding home values at varying distances, and the conclusion was consistent with the broader planning literature. Well-designed residential development near transit is associated with stable or improving values over time. And importantly, the design of this project reflects those proven patterns. Higher density is, as I've stated, closer to the downtown, lower density closer to the edges, and an overall site design intentionally that steps down in intensity as it approaches the surrounding homes. So from the planning and market standpoint, this, we believe, is not an experiment. It's a tested and intentional approach, and the bottom line is that this project supports neighborhood stability while also strengthening the long-term economic health of the village. And we do have on the screen some of the community benefits that I've repeated several times here. The catalyst for downtown growth, the economic benefit by all of the discretionary income coming into by the new residents. I don't want to say it's forced spending, but when you bring in residents that want to walk to where they want to spend their money, it's a perfect mix. The community benefits between downtown growth, a more diverse and inclusive community, and enhanced social interaction and civil engagement, already taking advantage of what all of the great community benefits that are already offered here in Cary. The structural and environmental benefits, being the walkability, taking the train to the city or to your employment as opposed to taking your vehicle. The quality of life enhancements. Just the fact that all of these new residents are going to be able to take advantage of all of the wonderful things going downtown Cary. So at the end of the day, we believe that this is an investment, not just in development. It's an investment into the future of the village of Cary, and appreciate your support.
We're nearing the completion of our presentation, so just bear with us a little bit. Just some more imagery that you will get a feel for from different perspectives of what the development will look like. Bird's eye view of the development looking to the north. Again, a lot of roofs, but again, that's a very nice development. There's about 40% of the usable space of the almost 15 acres is green and or community paths, et cetera, et cetera. So it's dense, yet still has plenty of green to help offset that density and is befitting of a suburban Cary development that still is very walkable to downtown. Another bird's eye perspective, looking at the High Road extension and into the the development. As Michael said, and I may have misspoke, everything except the three level, or the three apartments in the middle of the development are all for sale. So I think I may have inadvertently said the townhomes are rental. They are not, they're all for sale. So just to clarify that. Again, imagery of that building, which I've already talked to you about. Some other shots from the internal area of the apartment development. Seeing the pool in the background and some of the sidewalks. Very active space, social space. The dog park's off to the left. Again, well landscaped to really break up the development to be walkable and sociable. So we're very excited about the opportunity from a landscaping standpoint to really enhance the development perspective, looking at the duplexes. Again, these are just homogeneous colors for the time being, but there is expect some variety as this project evolves. Very active space. Renderings are great, but hopefully we get to see that activity during the day. Again, single families, well landscaped and very effective. So final is an animation we created for this to give you a little different perspective from a fly-through. Thank you for that. So one last thing, I'm not going to get into the weeds because Mr. Simmons is going to dig a little deeper in that, as was mentioned previously by Mr. Simmons about the CPA zoning deviations. These are listed here as noted. We believe these are appropriate deviations from the zoning regulations that meet the objectives set out with the Village's comprehensive plan, as well as what we believe is the highest and best use, as spelled out frequently by Mr. Polkidas, as well as just to get the level of quality needed and the density that goes with a successful development that we're very excited about bringing to reality as soon as we get the green light from you. So with that, thank you very much for your time. Turn it over to Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
You have some more to add to that, Mr. Simmons?
Before questions to the development team, I'll briefly go through the overview of what the actionable items that the board is considering this evening. Again, the slide here shows the overview of the project in general. As the development team mentioned, it's a mixture of single-family for sale products and multifamily rental products in several different housing types, but a total combined unit count of 280 units for the entire site. Under the comprehensive plan, the property currently is designated for multifamily, as I mentioned earlier this evening. For the proposed development, there is no change that's proposed to that designation. The designation, per the guidance in the comprehensive plan, is appropriate for residential developments, including apartments, condominiums, and senior housing. The plan recommends specifically for the Maplewood site that the site should feature a range of residential uses, and that the site planning and design should be sensitive to the needs of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. In addition to other guidance, there's a significant amount of guidance within the comprehensive plan regarding the Maplewood site. I think it's referenced on over 20 pages in the document. But specifically, the concept plan that's in the lower right-hand portion of the image slide here looks at that transition of housing types from the existing single-family Frankie subdivision neighborhood around the property, ramping the density up and the heights of buildings as you travel further away from that subdivision. Additionally, there's guidance in the plan for future roadway connections, which include the proposed high road extension project that the village is currently working on. Similarly, within the downtown strategic plan, there's guidance, as the petitioner did mention, regarding the enhancement of the downtown area. And one of the specific goals is to strengthen downtown Cary's market position. And there's specific language in Action 2, or Strategy 2, Action 2 within the document regarding the Maplewood site. Additionally, there were 3 concept plans that were put together to conceptualize what potential redevelopment of the site would look like and how it would integrate with the surrounding neighborhood. Specifically within the downtown plan, as you can see on the left-hand slide, is the language that's in the plan indicating that the Maplewood development should include a mixture of housing types such as multifamily buildings, single-family attached town or row homes, or potentially small lot single-family detached units, along with added open space and connections to the metro station downtown surrounding residential neighborhood. As the petitioner mentioned, with the site plan that they've put together for the site, they've tried to incorporate as much of this guidance as possible into the plan. It does have a mixture of housing types consistent with the recommendations of the plan, and then it's also ramping up the density as you have traveled from south to north, closer to the railroad tracks, further away from the residential areas. Also within the downtown plan, there's design guidelines that were adopted within the plan to speak towards the type of development or how development should be designed going forward within the downtown area. Specifically, there's 3 areas of guidance, which include urban form, architecture, site and landscape. Within the staff report, staff identified the 9 items that are listed on the slide here as far as how the project incorporates those elements within their design. Again, with building heights, the staggered height as you travel from south to north is incorporated. Upper floor setbacks with the 2 taller apartment complexes in building 2 and 3. The ends of those buildings are 4 stories, and then you step up to the 5th story towards the center of the project that helps to break up the massing of those structures. Additionally, there's various elements that are incorporated into the designs of the buildings for facade articulation. So there's different various elements of materials that are proposed that will provide for some play with light and shadow on the properties to help break up their massing. The architecture overall has a unified design, even though there are multiple housing types proposed. They have a similar architectural style, but will not have an overall monotonous look to the site. And additionally, with the apartment building, the tower feature that's incorporated on the northeast corner of the site, that'll be visible from High Road, Route 14, and also the railroad tracks, provides an iconic entrance to that structure from those roadways. Additionally, the developer team has incorporated various landscaping elements, pedestrian elements into the project that'll help it to not only provide for internal circulation for its residents, but will connect to the surrounding neighborhood and new roadway so that there will be additional pedestrian activity through the area and to the proposed park space in the southwest corner of the site. Additionally, from a sustainability standpoint, the stormwater basins have been designed As there are 3 basins that are proposed on the site, one which will be combined with an existing basin within the Frankie subdivision, and then 2 new basins that will be constructed within the development to accommodate stormwater requirements. They've been designed with native grasses to allow for naturalization of that area, that will allow for not only for filtration of the water into the ground from a standpoint, but also will improve water quality as well as it leaves the property from the stormwater events. The 2 actionable items that are required this evening before the board. First is the proposed rezoning of the property. As the property is currently zoned R2 single-family residential, which the school use was a permitted use within that district. The petitioner, in order to pursue their project, is seeking to rezone the property to 2 zoning districts. The first would be the PO Park and Open Space District for the public land that will be dedicated for the park space in the southwest corner of the site. And then the balance of the site would be rezoned to the B1 Central Business District, which allows for multifamily development within that district. The PO district is consistent with other public park properties within the village. That zoning classification for parks that are owned by either the village park district or other entities throughout the community. And the B1 proposed zoning is consistent with properties located to the east of the site within downtown Cary. The proposed plan development, there are 6 departures that the development is seeking approval of, and there's various justification they provided in the packet for support of these petition requests. But I'll detail each of the 6 requirements here through the next 3 slides. So the first departure that's requested is a building setback departure for one of the townhouse buildings along Prairie Street. As you can see in the image in the upper right-hand slide, the code requirement is a 20-foot setback to the right-of-way with where the townhouse is proposed. My cursor here. In this location at the end of Prairie Street, the townhouse would be set back 15 feet from the northwesternmost portion of that right-of-way. However, the pavement for Prairie Street will be removed at the end cap, so it'll actually extend up to the driveway for the single-family homes. So there will be an additional 30-foot setback from that structure to what will be eventually the end of pavement. And then that building will also be set back 60 feet from the adjacent property line for the most closest residential use on the opposite side of Prairie Street. So that's a departure. They're seeking to reduce that setback from 20 feet to 15 feet for that one townhouse building. The separation requirements for structures, the second departure is being requested. Within the UDO, there's a separation requirement for the sides of two multifamily buildings. So a separation from one side of one building to another side of another building is minimum setback of 15 feet within our code. And they are seeking to reduce that setback for all of the single-family products that are within the development with various separations. So the duplexes, they're seeking to reduce that setback from 15 feet to 6 feet, and that would apply only to the garage portion of those developments. As you can see in the image in the lower right here, the duplex structures, the residences will be located towards the rear of the structure, and we'll have 2 garages that will extend on both the south and north end of each of those buildings. And for the units that are adjacent to each other, there will be a 6-foot separation between those garage units in the front of the building. The main residences would actually still be separated by 18 feet, but that departure is required for that 6-foot separation. In the townhouse buildings, as you can see in the 2 buildings here, they're seeking to reduce that setback from 15 feet to 10 feet for the side-to-side separation for those structures. And then for the single-family detached homes, which would front onto Krenz Avenue, they're seeking to reduce the separation between those units from 15 feet to 9 feet. The third departure that is being requested is for the overall building height for the proposed multifamily buildings within the development. Within the B1 district, the maximum building height is 50 feet, as measured to the midpoint of the roof. The proposed single-family products will all comply with that requirement with a maximum height of 23.5 feet for the two-story townhomes. The surrounding neighborhood, the Frankie subdivision, which is zoned R2, has a maximum building height of 30 feet. So these homes will be compliant or consistent with the existing neighborhood heights for the transition from the existing neighborhood to the proposed development. Additionally, the 4-story multifamily building, Building 1, which is proposed in the center of the development, will have a maximum height of 48 feet and 48.25 feet, which will comply with the maximum 50-foot height. But the 2 5-story buildings that are on the north end of the property along High Road will require approval of a departure to increase the height from 50 feet to 58.6 feet. And then the tower element, which is on Building 3, would have an additional encroachment up to 70 feet for that height of the tower. And that's on the northernmost portion of the property. The fourth departure that they're seeking approval of this evening is a departure for the required off-street parking spaces for the multifamily portion of the product or development. As noted, the single-family portion of the site, the single-family detached homes, townhomes, and duplexes will all comply with the minimum requirements of 2 parking spaces per unit within our code, and then the townhomes and duplexes will have additional spaces for 2 vehicles on their driveways as well. But the multifamily portion of the product, for the apartments, they are requesting a departure to decrease the required parking spaces for that portion of the project. Per code, is currently drafted, the code requires a 2.25 spaces per unit, regardless of the size of the unit or the type of the unit. So a studio versus a 3-bedroom space or unit both require a 2.25 spaces under our current code. They are seeking to reduce that parking requirement to 350 parking spaces, which include 215 parking spaces on the surface of the site and 135 spaces which are in the first level of the 3 apartment buildings. So there'll be interior parking provided as well, which will help to decrease the amount of parking or vehicles that are stored on the property. Should be noted that, so the departure that they're seeking will result in a ratio of about 1.5 parking spaces per unit, but it will result in a ratio of a little bit more than 1 space per bedroom that's in the multifamily portion of the product. So it'll be consistent with other developments that have been supported by the village in recent time period. Additionally, with the current petition, there is state legislation that has been passed, which goes into effect in early June. It's dubbed the People Over Parking Act that was approved by the update to the transit bill in the state last fall. Under that bill, local governments like the Village of Cary cannot regulate parking for new developments within a half-mile radius of a transit station, which would be the site within the proximity of the downtown area. So if this development were to be proposed later this year, the village could not regulate parking for that type of development under that act, unless it's further amended going forward. But under our current regulations, they're asking for a departure to reduce the parking from the 531 spaces to 350 spaces. The fifth departure that's being requested is for a modification to the western transition yard requirements, or the transition yard requirement for the western property line adjacent to the residences along School Street. The code requirement is a type B transition yard, which requires 3 shade trees and 3 screening trees per 100 linear feet, or based on the length of the property, about 23 of each type of tree. Due to the location of overhead utility lines that are along that property line, the petitioner is requesting a departure to modify that requirement to allow for the installation of larger shrubs, coniferous and deciduous shrubs along that property line, and 9 shade trees in the rear of the duplex yards to provide for an adequate buffer that would not impact those existing utility lines in that area. The other southeast transition yard in the southeast corner of the property, along the properties that are in Krenz Avenue that back up to the property, They are proposing to install the Type B transition yard in that location with the addition of a 6-foot fence, which is in addition to the code requirements for the landscaping there. Finally, the sixth departure that is being requested is to the code requirement for the maximum number of monument signs on the property. Per code, a maximum of one monument sign for residential development is permitted within the code up to 24 square feet. They are seeking a departure to install 2 monument signs at either entrance to the development from High Road up to a maximum of 55 square feet. For comparison, a commercial sign, monument sign would be allowed to, under our code, to go up to a size of 72 square feet. This is not a departure that's being requested, but just providing for information for the board for the consideration of the project. Within the B1 district, the maximum density for a development is 18 units per acre. As the project is currently designed, it will comply with that requirement, coming in at just under the 18 units per acre. The table on the right compares it to this proposal to other projects within the community as far as the density of apartment dwellings and townhome projects that are currently within the Village of Cary. As the petitioner mentioned, and as also one of the departures requested, the site will incorporate a number of landscaping elements throughout the site. As mentioned, the 2 transition areas, the transition area B will be proposed in the southeast corner of the site, and then they're asking for a departure for the western portion of the property for a blended transition with more shrubs as opposed to trees in that location. Additionally, they're providing around the multifamily products several building foundation plantings that are code compliant. There will be parking landscaping installed throughout the parking lots in the project. And as mentioned, the stormwater basins will incorporate native seeding and native plantings to naturalize those areas as well. As the board is aware, within the Unified Development Ordinance, there are various standards that need to be met for the actual items that are being requested this evening. This slide summarizes the map amendment standards for the proposed zoning changes. In general, the amendment should not be detrimental to the orderly development of the village, consistent with existing uses of property within the general area of the property in question. Property not generally suitable for uses permitted under existing zoning classification, among others, are listed on the slide. The petitioners provided a response to those standards as part of their petition as well for consideration by the board this evening. Additionally, with the proposed plan development, there are various standards for consideration of plan developments within the community, which are summarized on the slide. General conformance with recommendations of the comprehensive plan, impact on public facilities and resources, parking and traffic design, adequate buffering are items that are all a consideration for the approval of a plan development. As mentioned within the staff report, staff believes that the proposed project does comply with several of the standards and recommendations within the plans, both the comprehensive plan and the downtown strategic plan, and the site has been designed in a way to minimize impacts to surrounding properties from a traffic standpoint. With all the traffic, majority of the traffic, 95% of the units will have direct access to High Road, and only 13 of the single-family detached homes would have access to the subdivision to the south in Prairie Street and Krenz Avenue. Finally, with the proposed modifications that are proposed for the departures, there are various elements that can be reviewed by the board for the overall design of the site, which are summarized in the slide, looking at the integrated design of a project that will be developed as a unit in accordance with the overall design of the site. Location of higher buildings is mentioned. The density of the project is staggered as you increase, and will increase from the south to the north as you go towards from the residential area to the railroad tracks and frontage, and then has been designed with drives and parking circulation throughout the site to accommodate the uses, and that will minimize the impact in the surrounding area. Additionally, surface water drainage has been provided for the site, which will comply with the McHenry County Stormwater Ordinance regulations for the property, And those have been naturalized, designed to help with the water filtration and removal of the stormwater from the property during rain events. So the recommendation for the board this evening, should the ZPA determine that the various standards in this case have been met, staff is recommending that the ZPA recommend approval of 2 items: approval of a map amendment to rezone the property from the R2 single-family residential district to the PO Park and Open Space District and the B1 Central Business District, and 2, approval of the Cary Station Plan Development, subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the zoning board may have, and the developers here as well to provide additional, answer any questions the board may have as well.
Gentlemen and ladies, comments?
I do have
questions?
questions on parking.
Please.
Can you put up the site plan real quick?
Find the
Okay, there we go. Okay.
No,
Oh, no, that's the one. We don't have the other
This one.
There we go. All right, so yeah, I just have a question. I know one of the items was, reducing the required parking to 350, and we're down to like, what, 1.5 per space, or per apartment? Per bedroom, yes. So my question is, because, parking can really get crammed in there. And from what I see, there's the stormwater detention. You got number 8, 9, and 12 there. Those are like the dry detention areas, you're saying, with natural grasses and things like that in there?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's okay. Now, did you consider, possibly in that middle one, going with a storm trap system, like an underground stormwater storage system, and then you could put more parking on top of that? Then you can, utilize more space. Was that a consideration as you were going through the design?
Sorry. We did entertain that possibility and felt the cost to put additional parking on there, as well as the stormwater trap system, as well as just circulation in that area to create additional parking and get rid of green space, ultimately is what the basin ultimately ends up being, was not necessarily in the best interest of the overall development. Knowing that the parking counts based on studies and what we have seen at other communities felt to be appropriate at 1.5.
Yeah, because the thing is, apartments can fill up pretty quick, or the parking especially. One-bedroom apartments can have 2 people in there. Even studio apartments can have 2 people in there. There's 3-bedroom apartments as well. And screen space, yes, but it's not really usable if it's when it rains. And even when it doesn't rain, it's full of the grasses, so it looks nice, but you really can't use it. One thing you could possibly do is a storm trap there and have some parking there, and then storm trap under the rest of it, and have green space over top of that. Basically put all the storm, water, or most of it underground, and you can use, on top of that. I've seen it on projects before, and it's been really successful. So, because when parking, if that fills up, and then people, have visitors come over, or someone's living there, and visitors come over there, and then you can't find a parking space, then they'll go around. They might park out on High Street, then they might park over on, what if they go over on School Street or Krentz, even though they don't have access, I do like how the access is on the high road, not, you don't go through neighborhoods for it. But if parking fills up, because obviously neighbors or visitors won't be parking under, in the first floor of the apartment buildings. They'll be out on the parking lots themselves. So that's just something that, I don't know, that'd be, because you can do a lot of things with the underground stormwater systems. And then, that turnaround, that fire truck turnaround there, wouldn't have to be there, because that's just going to be a big asphalt area right there. You could possibly, come down that one parking lot there and kind of wrap around out to the other side or something like that, so that fire trucks can run around. But that's just one of the things I can see there. I know cost, but storm traps, they do add cost, but really for a large project like this, it's not really that much. So.
Well, we understand. Thank you for your input.
Frank?
Exact same question. Exact same.
There is, can I just add another comment to that? So if we do run into a challenge with parking, you can always do the storm trap system at a later date.
Well, it costs a lot more then, but yeah.
What, I have a question. You have another one or no? I assume on-site management, is that accurate? Yeah. With the management company and the apartment? Okay. And then also, Brian, fire department, all these different, in between setbacks that have been changed to like 6 foot or whatever, everything's good, coded, they're all okay with everything?
Yes, yeah, from the building separation standpoint you're speaking of, so the duplex units, once you get to a certain distance between structure, the actual building construction requirements will change under the International Building Code. So all the structures are designed in accordance with those requirements, but they would, there was no concerns as far as the separation from the structures from the fire department standpoint.
And then, and I think we asked this before, but just confirming again, being a larger building, the fire department has all the necessary things for this in case of emergency?
Correct. Yeah, the fire department is part of the review process for this. They didn't have any objections to the proposal as presented. Majority of the buildings will have access to 2 sides of the structures for fire suppression standpoint or fire response standpoint. And then all the, per code, all of the units would need to be sprinklered as well to, as multifamily products. Single-family detached homes would not need to be sprinklered, but the majority of the development would need to be sprinklered.
And then just to clarify, on this map, 12, that's where the waste is going to go, or do we have a specific place for where waste will be collected and whatnot? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, it is.
You're talking about trash?
Yep.
We have climate-controlled rooms in each of the buildings. And then working with our trash vendor, those will get rolled out immediately before they're picked up,
Okay.
scooped
So they're
up, put
inside
back
and then
in. So
brought
they'll be
outside.
inside, out
Okay.
of
Good.
view.
Anyone else have questions for either side or? Okay, I only have one, and it's kind of a personal thing. As, we're being asked to change this to, B1 from R2. Why B1 as opposed to just multifamily, since it was suggested for multifamily development?
It's a good question. So the B1 district and the R3 district, multifamily district, both allow multifamily
Yeah.
structures within them. So the development, since it's contiguous to the B1 district, it was a recommendation to continue that zoning classification from the B1 district, which is the commuter station and into the downtown area to the east. So it was a continuation from that standpoint, but also from some of the requirements for the development. The maximum density within the B1 district does allow for higher density compared to the R3 district. There's a maximum of 9 units per acre compared to the 18 units per acre. So the density for this project fits within the maximum for the B1 district. Within the approvals, though the B1 district does allow for commercial uses or retail type uses, as the PUD be approved, one of the conditions would be that this remain a residential development entirely, and that it wouldn't be converted to office or retail spaces as part of the condition. But homeowners in the area can still occupy businesses as a home occupation, but the conversion of a space or a building to offices or commercial space would not be allowed without having to go back through the process to amend the PUD plan.
Okay. We done for now? Okay. Okay, at this point, I'd like to open this to the public assembled. Brian, do you need the sign-in sheets? In the past few hearings where we've had a lot of comment, we've found that it's easier and more controllable if we just go row by row, going back as opposed to people popping up all over the place. So that's what I'm going to try to do tonight, is ask if you want to address the board or the developers, come up to the microphone by row, as I call you, and state your name and address for the record. And I would hope that I'm not going to hear the same thing 10 times in a row. I'm concerned about a certain point. If you've already had your comment kind of incorporated already, ask that you hold off. But everyone that wants to speak will be given an opportunity to speak tonight. Therefore, I would also ask that kind of limit your comments. We don't want to devote a half hour to one person. So saying all that, I would start with row one. If young lady here would like to start us off.
Thank you, people. I do. I have a couple questions. As a Carrie, I have 68 years. I'm kind of amazed at what's happening to our town.
Your name, please.
But right now, even looking at all of your faces.
Excuse me, could we
Oh,
have your name?
Robin Ankles. I'm in Fox Trails, grew up on Bell Street. Long-time resident.
Okay,
No, lot of people here.
plunge ahead.
Yep. But looking at all of your faces tonight, it doesn't even seem like all of you are so high and mighty about this. You're not just as gung-ho as the rest of the residents in Cary. I also wanted to ask is the square footage of the homes planned and the price tag. What is the price tag on these homes that are going to be on here? Because not a lot of people are going to want to be buying homes next to four-story apartment buildings. And you're going to have to keep those prices pretty low to get people in. There will be some organizations that will be buying some of those homes so they can use them as rentals. And you're going to have that coming in. The apartments that are on Main Street right now, many of them, I think, are still empty. There's rental signs out there even now. The price of the rentals, they're just sitting. So it's not exactly also, I wanted to say, have you thought about the development that's going on right next to St. Barnabas? The two-story apartment condos, the duplexes, high-end, they look nice, it's gonna bring in nice people. I mean, when you're looking at so many people in one small area, we're in trouble. We really are in trouble. And the town of Cary, you want it to grow? Well, Trax is already very crowded. So unless we have a Trax 2 and a Trax 3, other people are going to be going elsewhere. They're not, really won't stay in Cary. It's not going to be, we should turn it into Caryville, like Seaville, because this is what it's turning into. And I also mainly wanted to ask one thing about the residents that are around here, the people who have lived here since, Cary started. I mean, those homes have been there since I moved in. If they got their homes, because JM says that the homes will not depreciate, they may increase in value. Find that very hard to believe. If the people who have their homes now, get them appraised for how they sit now, and in 5 years they decide to sell, or 3 years when this is up, and their homes depreciate, will Cary have a pot in it of money to pay them the difference for what you've done to them? Will you be able to take care of the residents that have been here? Because isn't this what it's all about? You want to improve Cary? You want to bring in money for Cary? You want to help the Cary residents? You're not. This is trash. Pardon me. It is. They look like trash. This is not Palatine. This is not Arlington Heights Racetrack. This is not, we wanted to be quaint. We wanted to get a higher end individuals, in Cary with money to buy, to purchase, This is not how you're doing it. But will you have a pot here, to help the residents? That's the main thing that we need to think about. If you ask them to get their homes appraised for what they are sitting at now, and they are depreciated by this, will you pay them the difference? I think before you go any further on this, you need to take care of the residents in there now. Because they're gonna be having cars parked in front of their homes. They're gonna be dealing with noise. It's not gonna look good for them. They did that at Prairie Ridge when they put up the gravel pits. The homes around the gravel pits lost tremendous value. And they paid them the difference for what their houses lost because of the pit. You should be doing the same thing for this pit. That's all I have to say, but I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
And I hope you give that great consideration, and I hope the people in that neighborhood fight for that. Either not, or start a class action lawsuit against Carrie.
Row 2.
Hi, Chris Nagoda, 1370 Mulberry. Agree with you, totally. Jotted down a few things, but I did have a question before I get into what I jotted down. The single-family houses on Krenz have detached garages then? And then you park in your garage and there's no driveway? Is that correct? It's like you're right on the street, right? Is that correct? Correct. So you have guests, where would they park? They're not, your cars are in your garage, where are they gonna park?
Currently, there is parallel parking along Krenz that's going to stay. Oh, that's staying. And then they would also have access to the parking around the development as well.
Okay. Yeah, okay, well, I'll touch on the parking later, but you guys really didn't talk about when you were zipping through the presentation of how those single-family houses do have a detached garage, and you're smushing them together, 9 feet apart? And how much are they gonna be? How much are you charging people for these houses that wanna live 9 feet apart, that are gonna hear everything your neighbor says? And a detached garage and no parking? Crazy, crazy. I mean, and you're talking about doing this to develop the downtown, like our big downtown. We have a small downtown. What, there's 5 restaurants, a bank, and a couple shops? And all these people are gonna go there for what? There's no grocery shopping, there's no clothes shop. I think somebody said clothes shopping, there's no clothes shopping. It's a small downtown, you're right, Trex is always crowded. Uncle Jerry's is about a 2-hour wait. So you're gonna bring 500 more people in, and the traffic, et cetera. I know that's been touched upon. I mean, when I first heard about this last year, I said it was an appalling monstrosity. I still stand by that. It's ridiculous. I've been in Cary 25 years. My kids went to Maplewood. We all were around playing the baseball at the baseball fields. It was quaint. It was connected. It was community. We loved it. And you guys are ruining it. I mean, one by one, doing these things you're doing, but I think this has got to be the worst. This has got to be the worst. It's way too congested. It's way too dense. It looks like dorms or penitentiaries. Somebody tell me where in Cary is a 5-story building? Where? Even a 4-story building? Where? Do we have any of those? No. Why would you even consider this for that neighborhood? This is a residential neighborhood. Why would you consider it? It's beyond me. I think this is insane. And the storm detention, I think that's a safety issue. If you got this many people, and you're gonna have pets, and you're gonna have kids, and if they fill up with water, don't you think that's a safety issue for the people? I mean, I agree. I think you should get rid of them or put that underground stuff in and make it parking. You could have guest parking, extra parking, because you're not going to have enough parking. you reduce it to like, what, 531 new residents, and how many parking spaces are there? Less than 200? That's nuts. How could you even consider that? And we talked about the traffic. It's going to be ridiculous. What else? The lot lights, I'm assuming there's going to be lot lights on all night long. That's going to bother the people in the neighborhood. I just don't understand. This doesn't belong in this neighborhood. It's too dense. It's just too congested. The other stuff, I'm sure people will bring it up again. The safety issue. It's nuts. Again, I can't believe we're even considering this. And I don't understand why, people come here, they express their concerns, and it doesn't seem to matter. I've been to many meetings on many projects for Cary because I'm a concerned citizen, and I feel it's important to express your concerns, but it seems like they always fall on deaf ears. That these projects, great presentation, polished presentation, your studies, this and that, you can make your figures show whatever you want. But the residents, the people that live here that are telling you, expressing our concerns, why are you doing this to our town? Just to make a buck, a tax dollar? This is nuts. I don't know, you're just, the whole small town feel of Cary is just going out the window. And it's really disturbing, it's really disappointing. And I hope you would just consider what the citizens have said time and time again. Because this is wrong. This development is wrong. This doesn't belong there. Come up with something else. Single-family housing, if anything, is what should go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat? Okay. Anyone else in row 3?
I'm Kristen Fadden. I live at 26 North Prairie, so right there. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for listening about Prairie Street and not making that a thoroughway for the whole subdivision, because again, I do think parking's going to be a problem. But having Prairie not open to the whole thing, at least they're not coming down my half a block. That's all my street is a half a block. I'm just concerned about parking, and especially even with the kids, maybe you drive to the park instead of walking to the park and being able to park. Yes, I was going to ask the question if they are going to remain being able to park right there on Krenz. But that seems to be yes, so at least some of that parking could be there. But otherwise, I do think it's too many. I don't think we're going to have enough parking, but I am thankful that at least some of the comments in the past have helped a little bit with the single-family homes and some of the less dense around, and then I just think it's going to be a lot. So that's all.
Thank you. Looks like we moved to row 4. Come on up.
Kurt Zimmerman, 641 Norman Drive. Your question about the change in zoning instead of being R3 moving to B1 was an excellent question. We're not opposed to development, but this is overdevelopment. And an R3 density would be much, much easier for the neighborhood to work with. Can you back the screen up to the opening screen?
Brian?
It was the color screen with a little bit of the surrounding neighborhood in it. A little bit more. Couple more yet. Keep going. It was the opening screen. It was up
Yeah.
there while we were all sitting here. It was even before that, but anyway.
This is the opening slide.
Oh, okay. This is not going to be a green area. Not even close. If you look at the houses and the space between them in the entire neighborhood, it's nothing like what's going in here. The overhead view from the artist's rendition shows nothing but roof. And the single-family houses with 9 feet apart, I mean, come on, that's like the aisle over at Walmart. I mean, it's really ridiculous. That it's too close, it's too dense, and if there were a fire, God forbid, that whole row would go up because they're so close together. Each one is going to light the other one on fire before the fire department can stop it. So I think it's a safety hazard, a fire hazard. The lack of parking concerns me a lot. Moving it to an R3 and a lower density would help with that, because now there are going to be enough parking spots for the people who live there. Yes, you can hop on the train and take it to Chicago if you work in Chicago, but the train doesn't stop at Jewel. And you may go to the tracks and the different restaurants downtown for a little while, but pretty soon you're going to want to branch out. And people in America have cars. They just do. We were all going to have electric cars by now, but that didn't happen. So you just have to accept that people have cars, and this is the way things are. And 1 point whatever per bedroom just isn't enough. It's not reality. It's a pipe dream. So those are my biggest concerns. And I think fire safety, it's not a green space. Anyone who thinks that's a green space is deceived. So this is rooftop and pavement with a few little patches of green in between. A few bushes in front of the houses and stuff. That's not going to make a difference. So this is not going to benefit our community. This is degrading our community. A lower density and thoughtful design would make our community much nicer. It would improve the quality of life, not the quantity of life. And that's what's important to people who live here, the quality of life. So once we throw that away, we can never get it back. Thank you.
May I interject for 1 minute? He had said something. If you have a 2-bedroom apartment, and you have a mom and a dad with a car and a teenager in the next bedroom, that's 3 cars. Just saying.
Okay, one shot per customer, please.
Well, I just had to.
Anyone else in row 4 there? Paul, you're up.
Calling me out by name, my goodness.
I call a lot of people by name out there, so.
It's all right. I didn't hear you call anybody else out by name. I don't know if I feel flattered or whatever.
You still got to state your name and address, please.
Sure thing. Paul and Gallinera, 575 Krenz Avenue. Like many people here, I've been in this neighborhood or in the Frankie subdivision for 25 years, actually more than 25 years. It's kind of crazy. Our kids were supposed to go to the Maplewood School, but it closed before our kids were born, so we went over to the other school that was across the street. No big deal. During the presentation tonight, there was a number of plans that were made mention of as far as reference documentation, and one of them was the strategic downtown plan, and the other one was the Cary comprehensive plan. I want to introduce a few arguments about what JM Developers is asking for from their petition, and go through it that way. So in 2015, the village created the comprehensive plan, and I happen to think that that plan doesn't accurately represent the data shared by Cary residents for the Maplewood property development options. The data collected was documented in a different document that hasn't been mentioned yet, but it was mentioned a number of months ago during the New Haven Access Road public hearing, and that is the 2014 Village of Cary Existing Conditions Report, which in my opinion serves as the primary guidance document for the comprehensive plan. And and as it relates to the Maplewood property, the existing conditions report includes the following information that much of it didn't quite make it into the comprehensive plan. The property is located adjacent to the north end of the Metra commuter parking lot and in an established residential neighborhood. While the site could accommodate a range of uses, input received during the community outreach program underscored a desire for multifamily development, senior housing, retail and restaurants, and open space, and that was on page 49. Under the design considerations area, it states, regardless of the mixed use identified for the Maplewood property, site planning and design should be sensitive to the needs of the residential neighborhood and surround the site to the west and south. Once again, on page 49, this development and the design that is being introduced, I don't believe meets that criteria. It's not sensitive to the needs that it states here. Aside from examining the potential for institutional office users for the property, renovation and adaptive reuse of the facility should also be considered. I won't go into that because, once again, this was in 2014. Times were different then. Nobody's putting any type of office buildings or anything else like that. However, the reason why that was considered, if you all remember, is because at one time, the school board or the school district that owned that property was considering putting their administrative offices there. So, you know, that would have been a nice use, but that's neither here nor there for this. Regardless of the type of future development to occur on the site, parks and recreation needs should be taken into consideration when planning for redevelopment. And it's hard to scale that park, but that's just a park on a corner in consideration to what we're losing as far as green space. And as I go through this, you're going to see a trend as far as green space and park availability. The Maplewood School property is an opportunity for redevelopment. However, loss of the school park will impact the surrounding neighborhood. There may be opportunities to accommodate open space or recreational amenities to the benefit of local neighborhood without negatively impacting the overall viability of development of the Maplewood property. So, you know, once again, the data that was collected was concerned about green space in the park. Maplewood site is currently under development and potential loss of the school park, which will result in shortage of park space in the neighborhood. So the last three comments were on page 73, page 75, and page 80. The existing conditions report also includes the following information as it relates to the general type of developments the Village of Cary residents were looking for. More than half of the workshop participants desired to see additional senior housing options in Cary, including smaller single-family homes with amenities targeted at older residents and assisted living options. Overall, the comments highlighted the desire for housing options that would enable seniors to downsize and remain within Cary. And the last time I checked, you know, when seniors want to downsize, they don't necessarily always want to downsize into a building. And then when you downsize, you want to be able to afford whatever you're downsizing. So, and I'm only assuming this development is going to be kind of pricey. Should new development occur, single-family detached homes and townhomes or row homes were identified as equally desirable by workshop participants. As with other type of development, participants desired high quality in keeping with Cary's established neighborhoods. And then this last one kills me. With participants limited to choosing three options, multifamily housing was not highlighted as a priority. Comments indicated that apartments and condominiums should be encouraged in select areas namely the downtown. Now, the last time I checked, currently Maplewood is not part of the downtown. It's part of the residential neighborhood, part of the Frankie subdivision. If we're talking about, you know, development that's already in the downtown, right? Like, you know, where the abandoned bank is or somewhere else along the tracks or whatever, it's a different conversation, but that's not what we're talking about here. So based on all the data collected in the existing conditions report, why did the Village of Cary put out an RFP to find a developer that will very specifically build 5-story apartment buildings on a piece of property that is zoned R2 detached single-family homes when the guidance document for the comprehensive plan states multifamily housing was not highlighted as a priority? Comments indicated apartments and condominiums should be encouraged in select areas, namely the downtown. So the document, the mayor, the village staff, village trustees are constantly quoting from and referencing, in my opinion, is wrong, written with major bias, and does not reflect the desires of the residents of Cary. It's extremely important that the 2014 Village of Cary existing conditions report be taken in consideration when making any zoning recommendations. Furthermore, because of the comprehensive plan is wrong and incomplete, the way the village went out to RFP was also wrong and incomplete. The village should have created a more diverse pool of developers who were willing to propose the types of developments that were featured in the existing conditions report. Argument number 2, neighborhood continuity. The Maplewood property is currently zoned R2, detached single-family homes, and does not have the appropriate proximity for downtown Cary to expand into it. In fact, if there were to be any type of expansion onto the Maplewood property, it should be the Frankie subdivision coming over to the Maplewood property. Let me just remind everybody that the barrier between Maplewood and downtown is Main Street and an entire Metro parking lot. The Frankie subdivision consists of detached single-family homes ranging between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet in size, sitting on plots of land that are a quarter acre or more. The JM Developers project does not extend the continuity of the Frankie subdivision. What they want to build does not fit. In June 2021, the Village of Cary released another development-oriented document called the Downtown Strategic Plan, which has already been mentioned tonight. And this document states that the development of multifamily residential development compatible with the existing neighborhood is recommended, which is on page 5. Now, I find it very interesting that the new housing developments in Cimarron and Fox Trails and some of the others all feature detached single-family homes that match the neighborhood. And if you remember, on Cimarron Trail, there were a bunch of houses that went up there, and I don't see those being townhouses. I don't see those being apartment buildings or whatever. What they built there was, it looks like it's been there for like ever, right? There's continuity there, and that's what we're asking for. That's what we want in the Frankie subdivision. We want continuity. 5-story apartment buildings and 3-story townhouses will not give us continuity and take away from our existing neighborhood feel. Nowhere else in the Village of Cary do we see 5-story buildings, and I think that was brought up earlier tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe our tallest building in Cary right now is a senior living building that sits behind Jewel, and I think that might be 4 stories. But it's not 5 stories, and it's not sitting in smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Argument number 3, transit apartments are not needed in Cary, affordable single-family homes are. Based on transit data sourced with ChatGPT, working professionals that take the Metro to work, primarily Chicago, live in Barrington, Palatine, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Prospect Heights, and other towns along the rail line. This is because working professionals have no desire to spend more than 45 minutes commuting to work. Even on the express train, it takes 55 to 60 minutes to get to Chicago from the Cary station. So because the village of Cary is well outside that 45-minute mark, and because there are still many transit rentals available in Barrington, Palatine, Arlington Heights, and Mount Prospect, many of the transit apartments that JM developers want to build will most likely sit vacant. Not to mention, there is a tremendous amount of apartment competition in McHenry County, which was also mentioned tonight. Developers in Crystal Lake are building like crazy, and it works for them. Many of the new apartments that are being built in Crystal Lake are on the site of a former shopping center, and none of these apartment structures are 5 stories. Apartments do not work for us. Cary is not an apartment village. Cary is a single-family home village. When people come to Cary looking for a place to live, they are looking for houses, not apartments. And even if they're renting, they're looking for houses, not apartments. Even though there are some apartments available, they only make up around 5% of the housing in Cary, and currently some still vacant. As a matter of fact, and I'll just reiterate this, there's a large for rent sign outside of the schoolhouse apartments as we speak. Furthermore, according to a study published by the University of Illinois last year titled, "You Can't Buy What You Can't Afford, Illinois Housing Shortage and Ways to Fix It," Illinois currently faces a shortage of 142,000 homes and needs to build 227,000 units over the next 5 years to keep pace with demand. And the way the study defines homes is single family and townhomes, not apartments. So since we all know the village of Cary is a homes type town, and there is a significant home shortage in Illinois, and according to the 2014 Village of Cary Existing Conditions Report, should new development occur, single-family detached homes and town row homes were identified as equally desirable by workshop participants. Why is the mayor, village staff, and trustees pushing the type of housing development that is unwanted by residents and most likely will fail based on current data and predictive analytics? My fourth argument is about apartment parking.
Excuse me, Paul, how many arguments do you have on that sheet?
Just 5.
Just 5?
Yeah, and these last 2 are quick.
Okay.
And
I'll
this
let
one
you
is
go.
even quicker because there's been a bunch of people have come up here and express their concern about apartment parking. I'll just highlight this. Even in their plan, I found it very disturbing that if you live in a studio apartment, you're going to get a quarter parking spot, but I've never heard of buying a quarter of a car. Same thing with a half parking spot if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so on and so forth. You see, what JM developers fail to realize is that the village of Cary is a car village, as has been iterated by multiple people before came up here before me. And since there's no data on who owns a car in Cary, I'm going to make an educated guess that more than 99% of Cary residents own a car, and no matter what type of housing they live in. And I'm going to make another guess that this is not going to change no matter where you decide to build apartments. Just because you build apartments next to a train station doesn't mean that the residents of the apartment building will be using the train or decide to get around on an e-bike. Most likely, their primary mode of transportation will be car. So they will need a place to park, and their car in this plan, and then this plan doesn't include for that, and for sure, there'll be a major parking problem. And let me just reference that if the People Over Parking Act goes into effect in June, it's going to be even a bigger problem. All right, last argument. And I just learned about this today from one of my esteemed colleagues that are part of the Voice for Maplewood Residents group. And that is, I got educated about what's called spot zoning. And this is a spot zoning situation, in my opinion. Please allow me to share the definition of spot zoning. And according to the Zoning and Land Use Handbook, also known as the ABA, spot zoning is when a small area is zoned differently from the surrounding area, and that the courts may characterize the zoning as spot zoning and hold it invalid. And that's exactly what happened in the Concerned Citizens for McHenry And they use this case quite frequently when this situation comes up, and ironically, it's in Illinois. Concerned citizens for McHenry Inc. versus the City of McHenry, Illinois case. And in this case, the Appellate Court of Illinois held invalid the rezoning of a 6-acre parcel from single-family to commercial as spot zoning. And the reason why they did that is because what they had in their comprehensive plan, it was twofold. Number one, their comprehensive plan was old, and number two, it wasn't consistent with that was in there. And I feel that we're in a very, very similar situation. The court also pointed out that a highway serves as a proper boundary line between residential and business units. This point has been reiterated by other courts and represents a traditional view. The courts have held that the zoning has to begin and end somewhere, and a street is a rational dividing line. So do you know what the dividing line is in our case? And I mentioned it just a moment ago, Main Street and the Metro parking lot. All right, I'll skip the rest of that and go to my conclusion. In order for this project to move forward, ultimately, the Village of Cary Board of Trustees, not you, must have a majority of board members to vote to approve a zoning map amendment from R2 to single-family residential to PO Park and open space and B1 Central Business District, PUD, and also approve the residential plan development consisting of 0.82 acres of PO Park space and 14.47 acres of B1 multifamily residential containing zoning departures from the Unified Development Ordinance. However, Cary residents have made it very clear that we do not want this type of development. Based on the survey data we collected last year as the group known as Voices for Maplewood Residents, the community group collected data that stated that 94.37% of Cary residents said that they do not want this specific development project. However, Cary residents are not opposed to development on the Maplewood site, just like another gentleman stated tonight. For example, 54.43% said they would like to see single-family homes with a park. 29.11% said they would like to see a mix of townhomes and single-family homes with a park. These type of development options that are consistent with the existing neighborhood and don't require such an extreme zoning change. At the end of the day, the single-family homes and the townhomes that are in this plan, they are welcome, but the 4- and 5-story buildings, they need to go. With respect to this board, it is the responsibility of the Village of Cary ZPA Board to either recommend or not recommend these requested zoning actions. If you recommend these zoning actions, you are in fact endorsing the expansion of downtown Cary into a residential neighborhood. Moving from R2 to B1 is very extreme, not the right choice and decision. And not only is it not the right decision, but there is a strong legal precedence that states that changing the Maplewood zoning from R2 to B1 is illegal and can be overturned in court through spot zoning. And I just want to bring up one other thing. Nobody has brought it up yet, so I think I will. In reference to Patrick's resignation letter, he states, "Unfortunately, I've come to recognize the process, procedure, and information presented to the Board of Zoning, Planning, and Appeals Committee is being manipulated in order to achieve specific outcomes. And for this reason, I'm resigning as my role as Chairman, Zoning, Planning, and Appeals with immediate effect." And I hope he's wrong about that. I truly do. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Good evening. My name is Elaine, and I live in the Frankie neighborhood on Mary Lane. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. One quick question that I did have, Brian mentioned that the fire department has approved this whole thing, and the fire department says that they can get from both sides of the buildings. I'm wondering how you can get to the inside of building number 1, the inside of building number 2. that's facing all of the green space for the fire department. So they most likely cannot get in from both sides. Can a fire truck or an ambulance turn around in that little cul-de-sac area behind building number 2? So just a few things to kind of take into part there. I am here to respectfully oppose the proposed rezoning of Maplewood property from R2 to a B1 district. This property sits at the heart of a well-established neighborhood of single-family homes. These modest single-family homes create a cohesive community that residents have come to rely on for its stability and character. When homeowners purchased here, they did so with an understanding of existing R2 zoning. That zoning created a reasonable expectation of what this neighborhood would remain over time. While we know the school is closed, the property itself has remained zoned R2 throughout that transition. Even during the time it was owned and operated by the school district, there was no effort to change the underlying zoning designation for the bus barn. That consistency further reinforced the expectation that any future use of the property would remain aligned with the surrounding single-family neighborhood. Changing it now in a significant way undermines trust and alters the expectation that homeowners relied upon when making one of the most important investments in their lives. The proposed B1 zoning introduces a fundamentally different type of development. Multi-story buildings up to 5 stories, reduced setbacks, and significantly reduced green space that is not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood in scale or design. Zoning decisions should promote compatibility, not contrast. This proposal is not compatible, but it is a complete departure from the established character of the neighborhood. Rezoning this single parcel in the middle of an established residential area raises concern about spot zoning, where one property is treated differently in a way that does not align with surrounding neighborhood. This type of zoning favors a single development interest while remaining incompatible with the existing character of the area, and does so at the expense of the residents who have long relied on that consistency. In other established neighborhoods throughout Cary, new developments have respected the existing zoning and neighborhood character rather than introducing significantly higher density uses. This situation should be treated no differently. Rezoning this parcel to allow high density while surrounding properties remain unchanged highlights an inconsistency that reflects the very concerns associated with spot zoning. Treating one property very different from everything around it in a way that benefits a developer, not the broader community. Approving this request sets a precedent that similar high-density developments could be introduced into other established neighborhoods, fundamentally altering the character of the community over time. Zoning should be consistent and predictable. When one parcel is changed in a way that conflicts so sharply with its surroundings, it raises serious concerns about spot zoning and long-term planning integrity. But beyond character and fairness, there are serious environmental and drainage concerns that must be carefully considered. The existing R2 zoning, along with the nature of single-family development, preserves a higher amount of permeable land, yards, open space, natural absorption areas. These are not just aesthetic features, they are critical to how water is managed. The proposed B1 reduces green space and increases impervious surfaces, pavement, and parking areas. When that happens, less rainwater can be absorbed into the ground and more runoff is forced into drainage systems. That shift has real consequences. The Maplewood area is already known to be one of the lowest elevations in the village, and residents are well aware of its history of water accumulation. Adding dense development in a low-lying area while simultaneously reducing green space creates a heightened risk that stormwater will not be properly absorbed or managed. Instead, it will be redirected into surrounding areas, streets, yards, and homes. Even with engineered drainage systems, these systems have limits, especially during heavy rain events, which are becoming more frequent and intense. For existing residents, this is not a theoretical concern, it is a lived experience. Developmental decisions must respect the physical realities of the land. Ignoring elevation and drainage characteristics in favor of high density puts surrounding homeowners at increased risks. For many residents, their home is their largest investment. Increased flooding risks, loss of green space, and drastic change in density can negatively affect both property value and livability. People choose this neighborhood because of its scale, its open space, and its predictability. These are not minor qualities. They are fundamental to why people live here. This is not about stopping development. We understand this property will be redeveloped, and we welcome thoughtful, responsible use of the land. But that development should align with the conditions of the site and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The property currently may be underutilized, but that does not justify over-intensifying its use. There are reasonable alternatives such as single-family homes or smaller-scale developments that would maintain green space, respect drainage limitations, and fit within the existing fabric of the community. Approving high-density zoning in a known low-lying, flood-prone area sends the wrong message, not just about neighborhood compatibility, but about long-term planning and environmental responsibility. At its core, this is about keeping a promise to residents who invested in this neighborhood based on what it was and what it was expected to remain. Residents rely on zoning, not just as regulation, but as a promise of consistency in how their community will grow. I respectfully ask the board to deny the request for B1 rezoning and instead support a development approach that is consistent, responsible, and respectful of both the land and the community. Good planning doesn't just consider what we can be built, but what should be built, given the realities of the land and the people who already live there. Growth is important, but it must be the right growth, in the right place, in the right scale. This proposal does not meet that standard. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, Martha Ritter, 239 School Street. Why is the dog park bigger than the playground? Our neighborhood never had a playground like all the other neighborhoods, so I guess 2 swings are an improvement, because it's so small. I said, we already have a dog park. Why do we need another one? Do they consider dogs more important than kids? We've never had one. The only one we had was at Maplewood, and they took those away, what, 6, 7 years ago? No wonder why kids don't go outside. Where are they going to go in our neighborhood? Our neighborhood has never been recognized as Frankie subdivision. I've been asking for it. If you go out there, on the left side, all the neighborhoods are printed on there. I'll bet anybody $10 that you don't see Frankie neighborhood on there, Frankie subdivision. I bet you never even looked, right? I didn't think so. Anyway, is the playground park open to the public, or is it only for that development? Well, 2 swings not going to do much anyway, so what's the difference? And what's going to happen to all the wildlife that lives in the woods? I've been asking the the board for 9 months for TIF money for $80 for, it's called Legacy Conservation, to go study what animals are back there. You know what I got? Oh, there's no animals back there. Except I have a big picture of a coyote looking over my fence. So I don't know where they say there's no animals back there. So anyway, you know the answer I got? The pelt's worth a lot of money. Oh, that's really nice. So I'm just asking, why does the dogs get more property than we do? Doesn't make sense. But 2 swings is an improvement in our neighborhood. Frankie's never been recognized as a neighborhood anyway, so what's the difference?
Cabana?
Samantha Rossdeutcher. I'm at 338 Krenz. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm the little house on the corner. I'm the little house on the corner. So my property is going to be completely surrounded by this development. Can I get a picture of the single family homes, the front view on Krenz? Because the 9-foot thing is like insane. So On the porches, I know the porches were designed to fit in with the neighborhood, correct? That's like what we were going for. So with the houses being only 9 feet apart and the porches, are you planning on doing like privacy walls in between? Because that's gonna like totally disrupt the whole view. But like 9 feet isn't a lot of space.
Privacy between the houses?
Like between the houses? No. Okay, because there was a development on 22 when you go towards the hospital, and they had their single family homes really close together, and they did little privacy, like little fences in between, and it just disrupted the whole view of the development. So people are going to be on their porch, and then their neighbors are going to be 9 feet away on their porch. So is there backyard then in between the house and the garage? Like okay, so that's
Okay.
where,
I have to stop you because this is not meant to be back and forth.
Okay.
This is for public comment.
okay.
I'll ask the developers to make notes and answer the questions at the end of the public
Okay.
comment.
So we were concerned about parking. So if their garages are going to be right at the street, there's going to be no room for turnaround. There's going to be no room for guests to park back there. And I just think moving those houses to 9 feet apart is stretching that area so thin. I counted across the street from where those houses are going, I think there are 7 properties. So we're talking about doubling on the other side of the street, just in this house, just in these 13 houses. And like 13 doesn't seem like a lot, but for our neighborhood, like it doesn't fit. 13 houses does not fit there. And I appreciate them keeping Prairie Street as a dead end. That was a big compliment because, me and my husband, we bought our house 3 years ago. Unlike a lot of people in this room, we have not lived in Cary for our entire lives, but we bought our house because of the property it's on and the affordability. When we bought our house, it was affordable, and that's what we could afford as 20-something-year-olds. So having this subdivision go across our street is going to impact our value. Probably the most impact as anybody else in this room. So that's a really big concern, and them wanting to move things even closer by these zoning requests is a big concern. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next row. I think we're up to 6 now.
Hello, my name is Bob Newell, 907 West Main Street. Been a Cary resident for over 25 years. And I have a question about the infrastructure in that area. Has there been a study done that you know of?
I'm not sure we
Well, the
understand
water,
what.
sewer, storm, that's a great idea too, the rainwater storage. Because when I used to work for Rolling Meadows, and we did that in 3 areas, and it was fantastic. But let's say the sewer system needs to be improved, who's paying for that? Is that going to be the developers, or is that going to be the residents that have to pay to have the pipe go from 8-inch to 10-inch or 12? Same thing with water mains. How old are the mains in that area?
Well, that'll all be done as part of the engineering study to
Well, it's not been done yet,
determine
though.
what's needed to serve this, and it'll all be part of the plans when their engineers and our engineers get together and decide. I'm sure there's been preliminary investigations done. That's why we got some engineers down at the end of the thing there, so.
Yeah. So, okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Diane Chesky. I live at 150 Mary Lane in Cary. We bought our house there in '77, and so we're original owners. I've enjoyed living in Cary and plan on staying here. Last week, I went to Jerry's Pizza with a friend of mine, and we took one car, and we drove around and around, couldn't find a parking space, ended up parking at the bank illegally, and then sat by the window and watched to see if the car was going to be towed. And it's like, I cannot imagine this many people moving so close to town. I mean, there was some extra parking, but then you made it where you had to pay for it. And that just doesn't make sense to me. There's many communities that have municipal parking lots for their towns where you can just park for free and walk around. And Cary doesn't have adequate parking now, and I cannot picture what it's going to be like. And I agree with everybody who has spoken so far, of my neighbors and people that I've known in Cary. Also, when we moved in, it was in '77. I don't remember when Cimarron was built, but there was a number of years that we lived there. We're kind of at the bottom of the hill on Mary Lane, but not all the way down at the bottom. And our house was built without a sump pump. When Cimarron was built, our house started flooding. We had to have a big insurance claim. We asked for help from the village and didn't get any. So I just have concerns about you doing so much building in such a small space of land, so close to town. I agree that there could be problems that come down the road with the infrastructure and everything, and what's going to happen then. So I just wanted to say all that. I won't keep you any longer.
Thank you. Anyone else in that row? If not, let's keep moving back. Anyone else from the rear there that? You beat him by a row, Mike.
Snuck by. I'm Mike Boyce, 572 Alita Drive in Cary. And I've been a resident of Frankie subdivision for 54 years, when it was way back when. So I would just ask, if you would please, this development is going to impact more than just the Frankie subdivision. It's going to go over to Cimarron, a little bit to Brigadoon and areas like that. So I think it's important. I think it's important that you ask yourselves, if you lived within half a mile of this development, would you vote to change the zoning? I sure wouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't have anything real organized or anything, but I'm Tim Allen, 223 North School Street. So I'm one of the people that come up to the duplexes. Now, they can be, I think, with the porches, 35 or 40 feet to my fence. I can't be that close. You're building something that can get closer to my property line than I can. I'm a gardener, I'm 70 years old, I want to stay there forever. This is not going to be good for me. That type of zoning over there is horrendous. And I don't want to get all mathy on you though, but with 280 units of various sizes, great idea on the drainage. I lived there since 90, and about 95, that whole field flooded. People were out there with canoes. And they put in the retention ponds, and that stopped that from happening. But this is a flood disaster waiting to happen. But you got 280 units, so 560 people maybe? Because remember, they're single-family homes. Those aren't 2 people. Those are going to be 3, 4, 5 people. You got duplexes. Those aren't 2 people. So minimum of 600 people in there. with 350 parking spots. What are we going to do for Uncle Jim's birthday? Have everybody take the train? The parking is going to be a disaster. I know we've beaten the death out of the parking, but it's going to be on School Street. It's going to be on Krenz. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on, they're going to be on Main Street. Do you think any scuffles might break out? And with this type of density, the police presence is going to be a daily thing. You can't put 600 people in 15 acres and expect everybody to be all happy. And if there's a fire of some sort, people will die. Not to get all dire, but that's what fires do. I beg of you to just turn this down, and I hope you do the right thing. This is a disaster. Thank you.
Or anyone else who would like to comment?
I don't know if I missed this while I stepped out there, but Jackie Maxwell, Cary, Illinois. Nobody talked about how many children are going to be in these units and where they're going to go to school. So I'm thinking also with 280 units, many of them 2 bedrooms and condos, you could potentially have 300-400 kids. Where are they going to go to school? Would be my question, I guess. And also, just in general, my opinion, no matter how pretty you make the building, you're still going to be looking at what looks like 4 and 5 story buildings, the way it's laid out. And, you know, a lot of us that moved to Cary moved because we wanted small town feel. I imagine that's why a lot of you went here. Also good schools, so, you know, that's my concern. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? We'll close the public portion of the hearing, and what do you think?
The developer to respond to?
Yeah.
Comments.
I don't know how many notes you gentlemen took, but would you like to respond to some of the questions that were raised?
Yeah, I just start off, thank you for all a lot of thoughtful conversation and things. We are highly respectful of all the feedback you've given us and the way that you conducted this. We do appreciate it. I've done this for 30 years, so I'm used to sitting in this chair and taking some grief, but it was, I appreciate the discourse we all do and the thought to come here on a Wednesday night and take time out of your schedule to do that. We do appreciate it, we do respect it. So even though we'll probably say some things now that you will disagree with, I did want to start with that on behalf of our team. Big picture, we are the validators of a lot of work that came before us in many ways, right? So there was the study, the RFP, all those things. We validated in the sense that we believe what the vision put forward that we answered is correct. And I'll speak a little bit later to some of the market analysis things and some things that maybe could be considered in that. But based on the experts we engaged and past experience, the work that your community did to get to this point in terms of laying out the groundwork for this plan is, we believe it's accurate. So we didn't come in and just instill our big vision in it. We are reconciling what's been laid out there before, and I hope you can respect that from our perspective. We are acting on what we see as what the community has brought forward through a longer process. And I do want to talk to some of the economics, but first, if either of you could maybe talk to some of the infrastructure things. I think the concerns about the stormwater and then the upstream or downstream utility connections.
Absolutely. My name is Brian Johnson with Pinnacle Engineering Group. We're a licensed engineering firm in the state of Illinois. We put together some preliminary engineering plans that we have sent over to the village for review. On those plans, we have grading concepts, utility concepts that deal with sanitary sewer, water main connection, and also stormwater as well. As you can see from the picture on the left, there are 3 different dry stormwater ponds being proposed. One in the northwest corner, the center one, as well as the one in the southeast corner. And those are somewhat strategically located. The one in the northwest is expanded, it's existing pond already. The one in the center will be connected to the one in the northwest. And the reason why that is because as engineers, we want to try to follow what the existing land is doing. So the majority of this site actually drains to the northwest corner towards the railroad tracks. So what we're doing is try to mimic those existing drainage patterns, and we're implementing those stormwater ponds. What those stormwater ponds end up doing is it collects all that additional stormwater that's being developed as a result of those impervious surfaces being created. What it does is it creates basically a large holding area, and it releases the water through a very small orifice over time. So what actually happens is whenever these developments come through, the peak flow from the site runoff is actually significantly less than what it is in the existing conditions, because we're controlling the stormwater and releasing it at a very slow rate. So as what was discussed earlier, these ponds are sized based on the local and the county stormwater ordinance. And again, we are significantly reducing the peak flow. The sanitary sewer, there's a sanitary sewer that runs along the northern perimeter of the site, and working with the village that has capacity for this development. And then there's water main along Cringe and School, all on the southwest corner. What this site is going to do is it'll have two different types of connections to that existing water main, and that will be looped within inside the development to provide two different sources of redundancy. That is very important when it comes to fighting fires and whatnot, and having two different points. Should one break, the other side will provide pressure. And those are sized appropriately as well. So there are no initial concerns through everything that's been evaluated thus far with regards to utilities and capacity. Thank you.
And then there was a comment about the associated costs on that. We are obligated on certain aspects under the RDA to improve adjacent infrastructure. We will do that, and then we would be liable as a developer to make sure that all those things function and validated through our engineers and through the planning, for the permit process. And I did want to give Viral, if you don't mind, a chance to speak. We heard quite a few comments on fire separation.
Could I ask a quick question? The improvements and things like that that are necessary for, to make sure everything is up to the needs, will that improvement in infrastructure, there we go, be part of the cost of building the plan, or will that be provided by us, the taxpayers?
I think we're liable under the RDA. Now, there's trade-offs. We were paying impact fees associated with this that were represented earlier that will cover additional costs. But in general, we are liable to manage and to fund those improvements.
Yeah. The improvements that are for the project, that serve the project, will be the responsibility of the developer to install. There are some improvements that the village required in addition to what the development is doing for their project that will improve drainage on School Street. There's a sewer line that needs to be replaced that the village will be paying for via the TIF, but there will be no additional impacts to taxpayers in the area.
In that instance, we'll fund it and carry the cost until there are TIF proceeds available. So we'll have to fund that and carry the cost of that improvement for 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you for indulging me.
Hello, my name is Viral, and I'm the architect working with Cadogan Clark. There were some concerns brought up about building 1, fire protection and access to the building from all sides. So we have taken care of that. So there is a south parking lot along with building 1, and there is a parking access from the east side as well to the building, and there will be fire hydrants around it. So the fire truck has access to that, and they will be able to reach to all the corners of the building that has been designed as per the code requirements. So.
I'll say a few things, Michael, if that's okay, and then go over. I just, change is hard, and we are sympathetic to the impact on things. Speaking to some of the market conditions, what we believe, well, I'll first say on parking and infrastructure and on the comment, we believe, and we're taking a $100 million risk here, that the parking as laid out is accurate for the apartments, and that's based on our experience and on market rates. This is not a true transit-oriented development, because that doesn't exist yet in Illinois legislature, but the scenario of a couple, and we believe this will predominantly be singles and couples, either at young professional or empty nester, from our analysis, one commuter on the train and you can be a one-car household, and that is an advantage and a selling point of the project, that you could survive with one car. Now, I have 3 kids, one at home still, but couldn't have survived with one car. But the renter in this could, particularly if one of them is commuting, 1 or 2 of them is commuting on the train. We've also seen the density in a per unit drop since COVID significantly. 2 bedrooms are more often than not rented by singles and couples, not by 2 roommates, because they need a home office and then bedroom for when, friends come to visit or something on an occasional basis. But generally, we're seeing lower density especially in the 2-bedroom apartments over time as a byproduct of more people working from home. So based on that, that's where we feel comfortable with the parking count, and we are taking the risk. It wouldn't be it would be foolish of us to invest $80 million in apartment development and think that we wouldn't be able to serve our tenants.
At the same time, metro traffic is down 30% since COVID too.
Okay, we're not into discussion. Let the developers respond to the questions.
Yeah.
We're done with the public comments, sir. I'm sorry.
They're putting a lot of money into it, and I'm respectful. I totally do. But we end up eating the burger when this thing doesn't go right. If there's 2 people in an apartment, they're each gonna have a car. That's very simple. They're not gonna share a car. Does your wife have a car? You know what I'm saying? Ridiculous.
Well, just that quickly segue, I think it is, I'll go back to it, is a different resident. And we believe one of the benefits would be this. I hear you on the housing shortage. Part of the reason the housing shortage is that this is such a difficult process to come together with communities and developers and get these things done. But there's also a lack of velocity and lack of product type in the community, and we think this solves a lot of that problem. So by introducing the apartment, these higher-end apartments, and the single-family product that we think it will offer a different product type that will allow people to shift within the community, and that starts to create some diversity and spurs market conditions. It can seem counterintuitive, but that's what we've seen historically. I know in my career in working with other communities that when communities with the renter and resident type today, communities get too static, you lose velocity, and you drop home values because of it, because you don't have the ability to move within it. That's our position. I understand you won't necessarily agree with it, but that's what we see.
Will you protect their home values?
The answer to that is
Excuse me, ma'am, the public portion is closed.
Well, I am the people.
And it's closed. I'm sorry. Let the developer answer the questions that were asked already.
Well, he was talking to me.
So just a couple of follow-up points to the conversation. So again, to Brent's point, thank everybody for their thoughtful conversation. There is a market reality, and the market reality says to us that this is parked properly, not just from the parking for underneath, but also the surface parking. And to the point of the stormwater in the middle of the property, that was a lot of push and pull. That wasn't done. That wasn't decided callously. It wasn't decided in a split moment. There was a lot of back and forth. It was talking to developers who have seen the worst of the underground storage that fails, right? To the ones who have seen the best of it. Weighed against. There was comments here already complaining that there was not enough green space, right? And so take that away. And so we weighed a lot of different factors over a long period of time over the past year that said, understand the validity of the underground water, but also the negatives of the underground water, which there are some. not everything is 100% foolproof. And then take that against the fact that we were put on a burden of putting green space in. Take that to the fact that if we would have waited 2 more months, to Brian's point, we could have parked this at 0. We could have literally parked this at 0. But that's not what we want. We're going to become a part of this community. You know, you're going to see our faces. You're going to see our kids' faces. We're going to make sure that we do everything to work with the police to make sure. The last thing we want are to upset the police force that we are bringing in the type of residents that we're going to have, you know, multiple calls to a property that we own. That's the last thing that we want. So it didn't go. It was a great comment, and I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that we did think about it. But the final decision after working with Pinnacle was what we proposed based on a lot of different factors. And so we do appreciate that conversation. So, you know, we want nothing more than to continue to work with the neighborhood and the village. I will say that was a great comment regarding the kids. Another comment that we spent weeks going back and forth negotiating an RDA, months actually, and in best practices we used court-tested studies that showed what the impact to the school districts would be. And I do apologize, Brian, I don't know if you have that handy. I don't, but it's not as big as you would think. It's not 600 residents have 300 kids. It's literally, out of residents of this size, you're probably talking 20
I have the information. So
Okay.
the population projections that we did, so it's based on the study that our impact fees are based on for the community. The population projection for the unit count in this development based on the number of bedrooms is predicted to be about 531 residents total for the development. And then the K through 8 number of students that are going to be generated by the development is projected to be at 30, based on the unit counts and the number of bedrooms. So that's an adopted study for the Chicagoland area. And additionally, for 9 through 12, the total number of students that are projected is 9 students per for the high school grades. So the redevelopment agreement that was executed looks at what those impacts are based on the number of students that are generated for the site, and then it would generate revenue from the TIF to go back to the tax districts for any new students that are generated by the site. So the schools would receive funding from the development through the taxes paid in the site for the actual impact that would be incurred by the development. Should they produce more students, they'll get more revenue from the development.
And so, Brian, thank you for that. And so, you know, another comment was regarding the park. It will be a neighborhood park, and we have already engaged with the park district to make this make this formed to their typical community park, right? So it will have more than 2 swings. We did that. That was a great comment. It will have access to the subdivision so that it does become a walking path, and so that it was also considered. And I will kind of end with this, that at the end of the day, we do believe that this is the highest and best use. At the end of the day, we have gone back and forth with the village regarding the subdivision. We have engaged in what we believe is more than maybe the typical community engagement, and that also includes local business owners. And the reason why we had asked to meet with local business owners is so that when we were going to sit here, I could tell you we met with approximately 10 to 12 business owners who 95% of them want this development. I understand that the comment about Jerry's Pizza has a 2-hour wait line, right? But I believe that they're going to figure it out, and the downtown will only grow. So we ask, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
The park and the dog park. I also wanted to extend the comment about the park being open for children, and I think there was one question about why is the dog park larger than the park? It's not actually, just so that the numbers are clear. Playground is 0.8 acre, and the dog park is only 0.16 acre, so that's definitely not larger than the playgrounds. I just wanted to kind of point that out quickly.
So we have gone back and forth. We have had thoughtful conversation with the people who are talking to the residents and ask that this get approved, as we truly believe it is the highest and best use for this property based on the strategic plans that have already, to Brent's point, already been laid out, already been gone back and forth and approved. So we thank you for your time, and hopefully we answered as many of the questions as we could regarding the comments, and we'll turn it back over.
Yeah, I wrote down one question here that I don't think you addressed, and that was the projected rental price and for sale price of the units.
Yeah, so do you want me to? Go ahead. Yeah, so, where we're at, and keep in mind that there's differing, we're gonna be 2 years, you know, anything can happen in 2 years. And so this is very predictive, right? So if inflation keeps going the way it is, I understand that 1,600 or 1,700 for a studio sounds absolutely ridiculous, but if inflation keeps going, that's where the pricing will be. But if inflation slows down, right, then the interest rates are going to come down, right? And then at that point, the rental market will look a little different. So it may not be at the $1,650 that we're anticipating for the studio. It might be flat at $1,500. There was a point in time in history where rental rates stayed flat for I don't know how many years. So, but if inflation keeps going, we are talking $1,600 to $1,700 for a studio. We are talking $1,800 to $2,200 for a one-bedroom, and we are talking, you know, $2,200 to $2,500 for a two-bedroom, right? I will tell you, as a son of parents who are seniors, that is very much cheaper than what a senior living facility or residence would charge for seniors. And we would be targeting, right, people who, those seniors, 55 to 75, right, that are looking to downsize. And so that's where that will be. And the reality, Chairman, is that the same thing with the housing stock. If interest rates keep going up, right, then inflation keeps going up, then we are going to be in that $400,000 to $500,000 range. If interest rates go down, then it could be you know, in the low fours, high threes, right? So it's we're 2 years away, but that's where we're predicting. If everything stayed the same, that's where we're predicting the prices will be. But that's why it's also hard for us, some people to understand. 2 years from now, 2 years ago, no one predicted gas at $6, but it's there. And so we have to unfortunately predict, because it's our money on the line. It's the village's confidence and faith and TIF district money on the line. And so we put a lot of work into coming up with these prices, and don't want to offend anybody by those prices, but that's kind of where we will be. As I was thinking, one other thing, our market is not just the resident taking the train to Chicago. It's also the resident that doesn't want to pay Arlington Heights prices that's going to come to us and pay a little bit lower, right? And so it's that resident going from Cary to Arlington Heights or Cary to Crystal Lake that wants that, and I'm asking for moans and groans when I say this. The quaintness of Cary, We are going, we are going to do all in our power and working with the village and the architects, the professionals at what they do to make this feel quaint and be quaint and continue that to keep, to protect the investment, so.
Thank you.
Two quick notes, if I can jump in.
Go ahead,
So
Brian.
just two notes to clarify other questions that came up. I just want to clarify too. So the parking departure that's being requested is specifically for the multifamily portion of the project, so just the apartments. If you, because I heard a reference to 280 units to 350 parking spaces, the single-family portion of the product, so the duplexes, the townhomes, and the single-family detached will each comply with code and have 2 parking spaces themselves. So if you add the 88 parking spaces that they have for those units to the 350 spaces, you have 438 spaces for this development and 280 units. So it's just the multifamily portion that they're asking for that slight relief to reduce the numbers for. And again, with the studio, the way our code is drafted, a 3-bedroom unit and a studio apartment unit have the same parking requirement of 2.25 spaces. So our code doesn't differentiate between those units. The majority of the units in this development, as proposed, are studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedrooms. There's only 6 3-bedroom units that are in the project. Majority of them are actually the 1-bedroom units, is the highest number of units. So you're going to have a smaller unit type that will not have the high parking demand from a 2.25 spaces per unit. So that's why the relief is being requested. So the way to look at it as far as how it's being proposed is they are providing one space, more than one space per bedroom in the multifamily project, portion of the project.
So, real quick, Brian, the 531 required, that includes the townhomes and the duplexes and the single-family too?
That does not. So the 531, so if you included the townhomes and the single-family homes as part of that, there'd be another 88 spaces on top of the 531.
Oh, okay. So 531 is for the apartments?
The 531 is just for the apartment portion of the project, yeah. So the 531, the reduction of 350 is just for the apartment portion of the project. The rest of the site will comply with code. And then another comment that I heard from a resident was the setbacks for the duplexes to the residences along School Street. The structures on that side of the building will actually comply with the required setback. So the setback that's required is the same as what the rear yard setback is for those homes on School Street of 40 feet. And the duplexes will be set back further than that 40-foot distance from that property line. So there will be separation of over 40 feet to the property line on the west side of the property.
Thank you, Brian. I would then address the developers. Brian, in his staff report, has put together a total of 18 conditions, which I assume you have seen. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes.
Good, simple answer. Okay, is there anything else anybody on the board would like to address or question?
I just want to make a few statements that are important. The Village of Cary, the Park District, has, and it's important, we're talking about green space. We have 4 times the national average per 1,000 residents in Cary. Roughly, it's good to look things up as we had some time, 39 to 40 acres per 1,000. So that's what we're based on. I mean, the Park District has done an amazing job of creating green space between Hoffman Park and kind of grabbing all this green space, including the parks and the golf courses and the dog parks. So space is limited based on Cambria, Boxford, all these expansions have happened, have taken green space. This is not, in my opinion, we want to keep our identity. So we've done that. The Park District has helped give us that 40 acres per 1,000. And that's attractive to people who are coming here. That's attractive to us. That's why we're here. A lot of you guys have been here for a long time, right? So in my opinion, when we're looking as a zoning board, we're trying to find the best uses. I could imagine if we were trying to talk about putting this in a park that was, I know Maplewood was there, but Maplewood is the park, but there's so much green space that we have compared to other municipalities. So that is one thing that I'm proud of. But having said that, I think that when we're looking at green space in this area, it's important to have a park, and then the park district takes it over. So I think that I appreciate, you guys listening to both sides, but I just want to make sure I stated that, because that's a very important thing when we're talking about green space.
You're shaking your head, Frank. Okay. Okay, that being said, Chair will entertain, I assume we're not gonna talk about each of these. Okay.
So the recommendation before the board would be to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees approval of the map amendment to rezone the property from the R2 Single Family Residential District to the PO.
I got that part.
Sorry. Park and Open Space District, the B1 Central Business District, and approve the Cary Station Plan Development, subject to the conditions of the staff report, and also the findings as presented to the board in the staff report and the petition provided by the petitioner.
Okay, you heard what Brian said.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I guess we'll do a roll call vote.
Any discussion?
Oh, further discussion? I thought we were done. Okay, let's go for it.
O'Laughlin?
No.
Williams?
Yes.
Kretschmer?
Yes.
Trandell? Castetter? Graziano?
No.
4-2.
On a vote of 4-2, you do have a recommendation of approval to go to the village board, and I'm sure there'll be heavy discussion at that point. Brian, you have an idea when this might come before the board?
We're going to the first meeting in June, which I believe is June 2nd.
Okay.
June 2nd, yes.
Okay, June 2nd, you're up again, and I thank you all for attending tonight, and motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're done.
Jim just wanted to smash the gavel. Just once.
All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
aye. This, and this.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep the stuff that came to me later.